Good morning. Hi. Well, I'm actually going to go on a site today to commission an inverter connected to a generator. So I don't often go on the site, but I'm going to try and do a lot more site visits and trying to update and trying to show people the best way and good practice. So I got some basic tools, screwdriver, multimeter, obviously for checking things, but I've got the most important tool, the instruction manual. So a lot of people, I always say to people, familiarize yourself with everything. Don't go on a site unless you're clear. You've used the equipment, test it in your workshop first. Don't just turn up and try and test it and try and understand it while you're on site, because it can be a little bit embarrassing. But the instruction manual is important. What I've actually done is and this is just really for everyone's reference, I've highlighted the important things. I'm going to be using a generator. So I've highlighted the connections for the generator in the instruction manual, so it's very clear. I've also, which is really important, I've actually got a set of the instruction manual for the battery here as well, because people forget about the battery. And so the system's got two in parallel. So I've actually highlighted on the instruction manual the settings for the parallel setting for two batteries, so I know exactly where the dip switches are. I've also I've highlighted the CAN bus setting and the cable setting for the battery. So everything is all marked up, so when I get there, it'll be very easy as a reference. But this is the most important tool you can take, is your instruction manual. Because you don't really get in there and say, well, how to do this, how to do that. You should be totally familiar with it. And if you're unsure, ask the questions before you get to the site and test everything. So I'm going to do that today, and hopefully everything will follow. And I'm hoping we've got a few issues, and the installer's done a couple of things wrong, and that way we can sort of typically find the problems. But when I get there, the first thing I will do is check the communication with the battery, make sure the battery is working. Because if you haven't got communication with the battery, then everything else is a problem. So we check the battery comms, and follow with me, and hopefully my tips may be useful, they may not be useful. So we're just heading to the site. This is in the UK. So we'll look at this site and have a look. It's actually a system running off a generator, so it's quite remote and it's totally off grid. So just arrived here. They've got a generator some distance away, and they've got a cable connecting it to. So they've got a communication cable and the power from the generator. So we're going to test the generator. The first thing I actually asked, have you tested the ATS is working? So we haven't actually done that yet. So we're going to test the ATS. So at least we know when we close the connections on the ATS, generator starts up, open the connections, generator stops. So we can check that is functioning. It's the first thing we can check, really. So we're going to do that. And then this is just actually a remote, really in the woods. You can see it's a totally remote site. They've got a little generator running at the moment to power a small cafe area. And they've got the batteries inside the van. We've got the inverter at the back, so you'll see a little bit as we connect it up. But I think the most important thing, first of all, before we do anything at all, let's make sure the generator works, because without a power source, then we're wasting our time. Check. All we need to do is make sure this is the remote controller, and so it's 230 volt out. It's a nice piece of kit.
Yeah,
it looks really nice. So we're basically on. So if you short the remote, the thing should start up. So it's a nice Jenny. So is there?
Yeah, Graham.
Could you short it? Just short the connection now. It's switched on.
Sure. Yeah.
See if it starts up. It's a minor technicality. The emergency stop button was pressed. It's okay. Not no big deal. In fact, it seems to have lit up a little bit now, so it looks like it's going to do something. So the controller is switched on, so hopefully this will start up once he shorts it together.
It's out of diesel.
Okay, so we tested the signal's working, so that's good. Did you not much fuel in it, or is it low?
No, what happened was you knew you were coming this morning,
Yeah.
and I said we're commissioning the whole lot, and then the owner, he went, oh, I've got to go and get some diesel for the Jenny, and I went, has it got any in it? He said, well, I'm not sure, it's low. Then after that I said, well, I'll go and get some diesel because you were coming.
Yes, yeah.
And then I thought, well, okay.
We're just going to check the batteries and check the communications. So I think the next thing is, as I mentioned before, if you're going to go on any system, first thing is check your batteries and check your communication. So the batteries are actually inside here. We've got two batteries, and these are Sunsynk battery, which is the same configuration as EZ Energy. So these are our KTEL batteries. So we're going to check these, and we're just going to make sure the settings are correct. So,
Yep.
okay, now before you connect them, we have to get the communication cables connected. So there's a small cable that would join the two batteries together. That's a communication cable.
Right.
Now,
Is it one of these here?
yeah, you see, yeah, and connect to the other
Same
one.
as down there,
Yeah.
same one there.
You can, yeah. Because we're using two batteries, one of the batteries has to be a master and one of them has to be a slave. So there's dip switches on the batteries. Now, where's the manual that I brought in before?
Oh, you brought it?
Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. There's that manual. So what if I show you on here, I marked everything to make it really nice and easy to follow. So if you see on here, see there's dip switches. So here is two in parallel. So that switches up, and you can just about see the switches with how the switches are marked.
One of these now. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So one is the master. So we'll use the top one as the master. So the dip switches are on the top one.
So
So basically all down while the switch number 2 is up. Yeah, all down except switch number 2 is up. Okay, now the bottom one, you can see the switches.
One and two.
1 and 2 are up.
1 and 2 are up, yeah.
Okay, so this is quite important. Okay, so the next thing is you've got the other communication cable. There's two ends to the cable. So one is to the battery, and you can see the mark separately. One says BMS. Now that side is the battery, and that side is the inverter. So this needs to be routed to the inverter, plugged into the inverter.
Okay.
And this side goes into the battery. Yeah, no alarm.
No alarm, no.
Right, so that means the battery. So if you switch the two batteries on, there's no alarm. The batteries should be talking to each other. So we can test at the inverter side now and see what we get there. We haven't turned we'll turn the box on in a second. The isolator. Just check make sure it's connected. Right, SAC 40%. So it's showing the batteries are 40%. The communication was working, but it was actually set on lithium rather than on the battery. So now I connect it onto lithium, I connect it onto the canvas, you've got capacity here. In fact, you've actually got capacity 200 ampere hour chain, maximum discharge current here. Maximum discharge current here, which is the two batteries, so you're okay. Yeah, so all good. So that's very important, because if you haven't got communication on the battery, then anything else that we're doing is a waste of time. We've actually got it right the first time. So the batteries are now talking to each other and they're communicating. Have a look at the screen. So it's a simple way. All I said before is here. Yeah. So if I put from here, here, it's telling me that I'm going to hook up charge the battery. What I'm just trying to do now is, once we've got the generator supplying power to the inverter, I think the very next thing we need to do is check the version of software, as the inverter may well need to be upgraded. So we're currently running at interface to the operating system is 417, which is the current system. So I'm going to put the data logger in here once the generator's on, and I'm rating the batteries up. The batteries are showing 40%, so they're quite low. And then we will update the system. And so once we update it, then we should be good to go. Look at the programming. The noise behind us is an auxiliary generator, so we're still running the site on the moment. The other generator is quite a way away, so there's 2 generators here. So let's first of all, let's just check that the system, the generator is going to run. And once we've got AC power coming in here, we haven't got it yet. We'll put the isolator off somewhere, so we'll check that, and then we'll get the batteries up to speed. So checking the inverter, you need to check the system is running. In fact, this one has got E405. And the 2130. Now I know E405 needs to be updated. In fact, what I'll do is I've got here a copy of the data logger. So this is the data logger. So this is a GSM data logger. These are great because there's nothing to do. You just fit the thing in and we'll be good to go. This is underneath. There's a cover. There's a cover which is screwed. If you remove the cover, and then this will plug straight in, and the beauty of the GSM one, it will work straight away. There's nothing else to do. So we'll set the GSM, make sure this logs onto the network, and then I will send a message across to the engineer to remotely update the system. We basically put the data logger in. It's a GSM data logger. The thing with GSM, you don't have to do anything. But there's very little indication on it. So I've just been talking to the engineer, and basically it didn't come online. It has just come online. Thank goodness. I was looking at it. We've had to wait about 20 minutes for the GSM to come online. So it's online now, and we're updating it. So we'll update both the operating system, and we'll update the LCD, which is the UI. So we update both the MCU and the UI, so both will be updated. It should take about 20 minutes. It's actually quite cold in the UK, despite the sunshine. It's probably about 5 or 6 degrees, so hence wearing a jumper. So let's see how we get on, and hopefully we'll have it updated and we can start programming everything up then. Thanks. So it's quite good, totally off grid. So it's not got power, so just waiting. The electrician's just checking the cables, because the actual generator is quite a distance away, so it's about 30, 40 metres away from here, so we'll have to go back and check again if it's connected. Well, long day, longer than I thought it would be here for an hour. So we've updated the software, which took forever because we're in a remote location, but we did actually manage to do it with the GSM dongle. So we set everything up, and I profiled it to operate the generator at night and certain hours. And I sat here being totally baffled why it wouldn't work, and I realised I forgot to set the date on the unit, the time. So the time was set, and untick synchronization, because then it was synchronized to the wrong time zone. So untick synchronization, and basically I then set the time. Time is now operating, generator just switched off, so it looks like everything is going to work fine. Come 6 o'clock, generator will start up if the battery's at a certain level. All good. Thank you. Well, back here in the workshop. Long day, long day. That was yesterday. Unfortunately, we couldn't do most of the program, which I really wanted to show on the screen, because the inverter was in such a bad position, and the sun was shining on it. You just couldn't see anything. And moreover, they had an additional generator that they were using for power. So once we got everything set up, then you suddenly see it was quiet. This is one of the benefits of having an inverter battery system. You can turn the generator off. Fantastic. I hope you saw the flow that happened. We initially tested the generator, contacts closed and open, generator stop start, so we knew the ATS was working. We wired the batteries in, we checked the communication was good on the batteries. Absolute top priority, bottom right hand corner icon, the navigation page to show that there's good communication on the batteries. That was also very important. We had to do an update. It took forever. We're in a poor reception area. Hindsight, we should have done the update before the inverter left the warehouse or our workshop. Unfortunately, the client took the inverter themselves, so we couldn't do the update. So my top tip, update the inverter and check your update before you get on site. It's much easier. and it saves an awful lot of problems, especially if you're in a poor reception area. So that was the only thing that we had. I've done a manual, I think it's about 30 pages, just going about using generator with our inverter. I hope it's useful. And I've covered most of the points which I discussed on it in terms of wiring of the connectors. There's two connections on it. There's GS and GV. I'm trying to explain a little bit about the difference, but which ones you should use. But nevertheless, we wired it all up. We set the time of use, and it worked a treat. Absolutely treat. I just got a call today. I set it to come on at start the generator if the power hit 29%, and our customer called me. I said, "Oh, we got a problem." I said, "What's the problem?" "The generator never started. What's the state of charge?" 35%. Well, yeah, okay. Well, it's all set to be. It's going to be below 30. Called me a little bit longer and said, "Yep, it's working. It's 29%." And then apparently his customer was a bit unsure, but all good. Anyway, it's great. No problems at all. Came on, and we set it to switch off at 40%. So on the time of use on the controller, we set for 40%. And what we've done is later on in the day, towards the end of the day, when there's nobody there, we'll fully charge the battery. And in fact, what we're thinking about now is our customer's thinking about setting it up so he can fully charge the battery about 4 o'clock in the morning. And so then he's got the whole day and it's quiet. There's nothing happening. The generator's off. So it's a great system. Worked well. It was amazing going to such a location. We get there, we chug, 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 and suddenly silent, nothing. The generator's off, batteries operating, powering everything. They had a cafe, a coffee shop, and a pizza place, some lights and a couple of refrigerators. Managed to run the whole lot. Two 5.1 kilowatt hour batteries and a 3.6 kilowatt hybrid inverter. Worked an absolute treat. So any questions, contact me, feel free, but I will highly recommend this inverter. Is fantastic to use with a generator. One other thing, when you get your gen set, buy a good gen set, don't buy a rubbish one. And also make sure your gen set is powerful enough. A rough guide, if you're using a 3.6, double the power for the gen set. So you want, say, a 7 or a 7.2, and so on and so forth. So you look to double the power of the generator, because the generator has to supply the power and charge the batteries. So you need to get something which is pretty powerful. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video, one of my short trips out, and keep in touch. Thank you.